Father of taxonomy, Linnaeus. Father of Indian taxonomy, Santappa. Main aspects of taxonomy. One is characterization, and the second one identification. Third one nomenclature. Characterization, identification, nomenclature, and classification. These are main aspects of taxonomy and also sequence of taxonomy. Types of taxonomy. One is alpha taxonomy. Alpha taxonomy, classification based on only morphological characters. It's called alpha taxonomy. Second one, omega taxonomy. Omega taxonomy, classification from data collected from other branches like cytology, then cytochemistry, serology is called omega taxonomy. Under this first one, types of classification. So, types of classification, it includes artificial, then natural, and phylogenetic. These are three types of classifications: artificial, natural, and a phylogenetic classification. So, first one, artificial classification. Artificial classification means classification based on few morphological characters. It's called artificial classification. Under this, one is 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, father of botany. He classified plants into three groups: herbs, shrubs, and trees, only on habit. And 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧, he wrote a book, 𝗧-𝗧𝗧 𝗧𝗧𝗧. Next, for another example for artificial, Linnaeus. Linnaeus is father of taxonomy. He classified all plants into 24 groups. Among that, one group non-flowering plants and 23 groups flowering plants. And his classification for flowering only on essential organs. Like essential organs means it includes stamens and carpels. So, in his classification, he considered number of stamens, fusion of stamens, types of stamens, in the same way carpels. Hence, his classification is called sexual system of classification. And he wrote two books. One is Systema Naturae and second one Species Plantarum. This is about artificial system of classification. An example for natural system of classification: De Candolle, Bentham and Hooker, and De-Jussieu. But a most popular natural system of classification, so Bentham and Hooker classification. Then all Commonwealth countries, including India, following this Bentham and Hooker classification. Bentham and Hooker classification. This Bentham and Hooker, they classified flowering plants, means phanerogams. They classified flowering plants, phanerogams, into three classes. Class 1 dicotyledonnae, then class 2 gymnospermae, class 2, class 3 monocotyledonnae. So according to Bentham and Hooker, number of classes 3: dicotyledonnae, gymnospermae and monocotyledonnae. First one, characters of dicots. Dicots, they shows taproot system. Then embryo consists of two cotyledons. Then reticulate venation. Then tetramerous or pentamerous flowers. These are major characters of dicots. Then he divided dicots into three subclasses. One is polypetalae. Second one, gamopetalae. And the third one, monoclamidae. These are three subclasses. Polypetalae, major character, free petals. And the subclass Polypetalae is divided into three series. Among three series, one is Thalamiflorae, second one Disciflorae, and the third one Caliciflorae. Thalamiflorae, thalamus is conical or convex. Then this Thalamiflorae divided into 6 orders. Among these 6 orders, one of the order, so Malvaceae. Which family is placed under Malvaceae means Malvaceae. And the second one, Disciflorae. Thalamus is disc shaped. And this Disciflorae is divided into 4 orders. And third one, Caliciflorae. Caliciflorae, thalamus is saucer shaped or thalamus is cup shaped. And this Caliciflorae is divided into 5 orders. Among 5 orders, one of the order, Rosales. Which family placed under Rosales means Fabaceae. It is about Polypetalae. Second one, Gamopetalae. Gamopetalae, major character. Petals are fused, called Gamopetalae. Like Polypetalae, even Gamopetalae is divided into 3 series. Among the 3, one is Inferae and second one Heteromerae, third one Bicarpillatae. Inferae, ovary is inferior. It is divided into 3 orders. One of the order, Asterales. Which family placed under Asterales means Asteraceae. Then second one, Heteromerae. Heteromerae, more than 2 carpels. Heteromerae, more than 2 carpels. And ovary is a superior. Then Bicarpillatae, 2 carpels. Then ovary is a superior It is divided into 4 orders. Among that 4, one of the order Polymoneales. Which family placed under Polymoneales means Solanaceae. 𝗘𝗍𝗺, it is divided into 3 orders. Third one, third subclass, Monoclamidae. This Monoclamidae is a without orders. It is divided into 8 series directly. This is about dicotyledonnae. And a second class, Gymnospermae. Gymnosperm characters. Here in gymnosperms, carpels are open, so no ovary. So ovules are called naked. And point is, these gymnosperms are not divided into subclass. It means no subclasses, no series, no order, and directly divided into 3 families. Among the 3 families, one is Coniferaceae, second one Neetaceae, and third one Cycadaceae. These 3 families placed under gymnosperms. And third one, Monocotyledonnae. Monocotyledonnae characters, adventitious root system, monocots, adventitious root system, then one cotyledon and parallel venation, then trimerous flowers. These are characters of Monocotyledonnae. Monocotyledonnae is also not divided into subclasses, no subclasses, no orders. It is directly divided into 7 series. Among that, one of the series, Coronariae. Which family placed under Coronariae means Liliaceae family. This is detailed information about Bentham and Hooker classification. Then main features of this classification. This Bentham and Hooker, they classified 97,205 species into 202 families. These are also called natural orders. So according to Bentham and Hooker, families 202 or natural orders 202. Among the 202, 199 angiospermic families. 199 angiospermic families and 3 gymnospermic families. Then among 199, 165 families showing reticulate venation or a taproot system or tetra or pentamerous flowers. It means 165 dicot families and 34 families showing 1 cotyledon or adventitious root system or that trimerous flowers. Then according to Bentham and Hooker, number of classes 3, total number of classes 3. According to Bentham and Hooker, number of subclasses 3. According to Bentham and Hooker, total number of orders 25. Among 25, 15 orders belonging to polypetalae, 10 orders belonging to gamopetalae. Total number of series 21. Among that 21, 14 series belonging to dicots, 7 series belonging to monocots, 14 series dicots, 7 series monocots. So, according to Bentham and Hooker, total number of orders 25, total number of series 21. According to Bentham and Hooker, merits of Bentham and Hooker, they recognize gymnosperm as separate group because in gymnosperms fruits are absent. They show similarities with angiosperms like having flowers, but how they differ from gymnosperm, angiosperm means in which fruits are absent. So, they recognize gymnosperm as separate group, that is merit, but which one is demerit means they won't give proper position to gymnosperms. They place gymnosperms in between that dicots and monocots, that is merit as well as demerit. Another merit according to Bentham and Hooker is a division of subclass polypetalae into 3 series, 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 and 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗪. Here 𝗧𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 and 𝗚𝗽𝗱 they have superior ovary. That superior ovary is primitive character, and 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗪 it is semi-inferior to inferior ovary. So, according to evolutionary sequence, primitive character placed at first and advanced character placed at last. So, they created polypetalae or they divided polypetalae under evolutionary sequence. That primitive character superior ovary placed before that advanced inferior character. So, they placed 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 before 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗪, that is one of the merit character. But here gamopetalae, creation of gamopetalae, again it is a demerit because first is inferior ovary, that is advanced, then this heteromere or bicarpellate, superior ovary, that is primitive. So, they placed that advanced character before primitive character. So, these are some of the Bentham and Hooker's merits as well as demerits. And Bentham and Hooker both worked in Royal Botanical Gardens at England, and Hooker became director of that institution. He wrote that Flora of British India, 7 volumes, and this Bentham and Hooker, they classified, they published their classification in their book, that Genera Plantarum. And example for phylogenetic classification, one is Engler and Prandtl classification. Engler and Prandtl classification comes under phylogenetic. This Engler and Prandtl, they wrote a book, Die Natur Lichen Plangen Familien book. And another example for phylogenetic system of classification, Hutchinson, he wrote a book, Families of Flowering Plants. And rightly, this phylogenetic classification proposed after the announcement of Darwin's theory, that a theory of evolution. Hence, their classification is called post-Darwin classification. So, these are types of classification. Description of morphology of flowering plant. It is based on characterization, then identification, then nomenclature and classification, and description of a flowering plant, habitat, habit, then vegetative characters. It includes root, stem and leaves, inflorescence, then general description of flower, which includes calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, pollination, fruit, seed. First, vegetative characters, and these are floral characters. Then under this next one, general description of flower. General description of flower means bracteate or bracteolate, then ebracteate or ebracteolate, complete or incomplete, actinomorphic or zygomorphic, superior or inferior ovary. Like this, general description of flower, dichlamydious or echlamydious, then merosity, tetra, pentamerous or trimerous, sexuality of flower, male, female, bisexual, position of gynoecium on thalamus, hypogynous, perigynous, epigynous. After floral formula, floral diagrams are represented. Then first one, floral formula. Floral formula means it indicates numerical number of floral leaves, letter and symbols total constitute floral formula. In floral formula, around floral leaves, if bracket is inserted, it indicates cohesion. For example, calyx means sepals. If sepals 5 free, no bracket. If sepals are fused, there is bracket. So it indicates cohesion. What is cohesion? Cohesion means union among similar particles, called a cohesion. So your sepals 5, they are fused. Then one more example, corolla. If petals 5 free, no bracket. If bracket is placed around that 5, it indicates cohesion of petals, means that petals are fused. That is called 𝗂𝗡𝗀𝗃𝗃. Second one, around floral parts, if there is arrow mark, that arrow mark is indication for adhesion. Arrow mark is indication for adhesion. For example, in Solanaceae, stamens 5, petals 5, petals 5. But in Solanaceae, petals 5 fused, cohesion. Stamens 5 free, no bracket. But epipetals, stamens fused with petals. So, these two main, one is bracket around floral leaves, indicates cohesion, then arrow mark between floral leaves indicates adhesion. So, once again, cohesion means union between similar particles, adhesion means union between dissimilar particles. Now, I will give detailed information about floral formula. If there is bract called bracteate, floral formula Br. If no bracts, ebracteate. Then if there is bracteole, bracteolate. If no bracteoles, ebracteolate. Then if flower is bisexual, it is bisexual. Unisexual, in unisexual flower two types. If only stamens present, male flower. If only gynoecium present, female flower. Then calyx, calyx means symbol K. If sepals 5, K5, free, no bracket, fused, gamosepalous, there is bracket. Corolla, it includes petals. For example, if petals are 5, free, without bracket, fused, gamopetals, there is bracket. Then andrecium, it includes stamens. For example, if stamens 5, free, or in some plants, stamens 10, 2 bundles, 9 plus 1, like this. Bundles means fused. If fused, there is bracket. In some plants, epipetals, stamens fused with petals. In monocots, calyx and corolla, undifferentiated, called perianth. If perianth 6, arranged in 2 rows like a 3 plus 3. Then gynoecium. Gynoecium includes carpels. If carpels 2, bicarpellary. If carpels 1, monocarpellary. If carpels 3, tricarpellary. Carpels more than many, infinity. Hypogynous, below the gynoecium, floral pods are found. Perigynous, ovary, half superior, half inferior. Right? If syncarpous, carpels fused, like this. Or if epigynous, above the gynoecium. Next one, floral diagram. Floral diagram, it represents transverse section of the flower and all floral pods are brought to the same level. Floral diagram. For example, Brassicaceae. In Brassicaceae, sepals 4 sepals, but these 4 sepals arranged in 2 rows like this, arranged in 2 rows. The next one, corolla. Corolla, 4 free petals. Corolla, 4 free petals. Then andecium. Andecium actually for 𝗳𝗧𝗃𝗃. 𝗳𝗧𝗃 it is like 2 lobes. Monothecus only 1 lobe. Then it is floral diagram for the Brassicaceae. Brassicaceae 6 stamens. Then gynoecium, bicarpellary, initially unilocular, becomes bilocular due to falsept. Then it is mother axis. Floral formula for Brassicaceae. Floral formula and a diagram. Floral diagram, it is floral diagram for Brassicaceae. Then floral formula for Brassicaceae: ebracteate, ebracteolate, actinomorphic, calyx 4, but 2 plus 2, corolla 4, andecium 6 stamens, but arranged in 2 rows, tetradynamous 2 plus 4, gynoecium bicarpellary, syncarpous, hypogynous. It is floral formula for Brassicaceae and it is floral diagram. Under taxonomy there are 3 families. So first family is Fabaceae. Fabaceae is new name. Old name for Fabaceae, Papilionaceae, and it is subfamily of Leguminaceae. It is worldwide distribution, present in tropical and subtropical areas. So first, economic importance of this family. Oil yielding plants, groundnut and soybean. Medicine, oil from dairies used in making medicine. Blue dye, indigofera. Yellow dye, flame of the forest. Fiber, sun hemp. Sun hemp is obtained from that Crotalaria. Pulses, red gram, black gram, Bengal gram. Vegetable yielding, pods, bean and soybean. Timber yielding, Indian rosewood, that is 𝗹𝗶𝗁𝗃, red sanders, 𝗘𝗍𝗺𝗺. These are some of the economic importance of Fabaceae. Now, important technical description of Fabaceae. Habitat, most of the plants mesophytes, some plants are xerophytes, ulex. Then habit, plants either herbs or shrubs or trees. Example for trees, one is 𝗹𝗶𝗁𝗃, Indian rosewood, 𝗹𝗶𝗁𝗃 tree, and 𝗘𝗍𝗺𝗺, red sanders. These are trees. The next one, vegetative characters. So vegetative characters, first one, root system. Here it is dicot family, So root is taproot. But Fabaceae members, taproot is modified. These modified taproots are called nodular roots. You know nodular roots. Nodular roots means that small outgrowths formed on roots. These small outgrowths are called nodules. Because of nodules, such roots are called nodular. Inside nodule, there is rhizobium bacteria. This rhizobium bacteria, it contains nitrogen fixing enzyme, nitrogenase. This nitrogenase fix nitrogen into ammonia and supplies that nitrogen to that plant. For this plant provide food to rhizobium. Such an association is called symbiosis. And so function of nodular roots, they help in nitrogen fixation. Generally, stem is aerial. Aerial means above the ground. Erect means straight. Herbaceous, soft or woody stem. Then next one is leaf. Leaf. Generally, leaf is stipulate. Stipules present. So leaf called a stipulate. Stipules present. Then pinnately compound. Stipulate and a pinnately compound. Leaf is divided into leaflets. Then next one, leaf base. Leaf base is pulvinous. Pulvinous leaf base means a swollen leaf base. Swollen leaf base. Then leaves are colline. Colline means directly present on stem. Then it is dicot family. So venation is reticulate. Then tendrilar leaves. Tendrilar leaves. Tendrilar leaves present in Lathyrus and Pisum. In Lathyrus, whole leaf is modified into tendril. But in Pisum, upper leaflets tendrilar, lower leaflets normal. Then in Pisum and Lathyrus, stipules become photosynthesis called foliaceous stipules, also called phyllodes. These are vegetative characters in Fabaceae. The next one, racemose type, but a simple raceme in Crotalaria. Simple raceme in Crotalaria. In some plants, inflorescence is axillary, dolichous. Then flower in detail. Generally flowers bracteate, bracteolate. All four floral parts present, called a complete. Then Flowers are bisexual. Male and female sex organs present. Bisexual. Calyx and corolla arranged in 2 rows called dichlamydious. Then calyx and corolla differentiated called heterochlamydious. Then sepals and petals 5 in number called pentamerous. Then pentamerous, sepals and petals arranged in 5. Perigynous. Perigynous means ovary semi-inferior. And zygomorphic. Flower can be cut into 2 equal parts, only in one plane, called zygomorphic. Then next, calyx. It includes sepals. Sepals 5, gamocephalous. Then valvate estivation. Corolla. Corolla important. Corolla petals 5. Petals 5 free, and arrangement of petals is called papilionaceous type. Papilionaceous type means petals 5 free and unequal. 5 free and unequal petals. Among that, posterior petal large called standard or vexillum. Then lateral 2 petals called wing petals called alae. Then anterior 2 petals fused to form boat shaped called keel or carina. Such arrangement is called papilionaceous type. Then what type of estivation? Papilionaceous type. What type of estivation means here? Posterior standard petal, outside lateral, these are lateral wing petals. The standard petals covers posterior margins of wing petals and anterior margins of wing petals covers posterior margins of keel or carina. So here overlapping takes place from posterior to anterior. Such estivation is called descendingly imbricate or also called vexillary estivation. Descendingly imbricate or vexillary estivation. Actually, here only I will explain piston mechanism. A point is this keel or carina, they encloses essential organs, andesium and gynecium. So this wing petal, standard petal attract insects. Then that insects alight on wing petals. When that insects land on wing petals, that wing petals get pressed, and even then these essential organs like andesium and gynecium, it come out. And already abdominal part of insect carries pollen grains. When stigma touches that abdominal part, it receives that pollen grains. And stamen, it touches with abdominal part of insect, and thus insects receives pollen grains. Actually, flowers are protandrous, so first insect carried that pollen grains. After receiving that pollen grains, again these essential organs return to that keel or carina. There, that essential organs movement is just like a piston, hence it is called piston mechanism. So, calyx, corolla. Next one is androecium. So, androecium means stamens, androecium. Stamens 10. So, rightly stamens 10 and it is called diadelphous. Why it is called diadelphous? Among 10 stamens, 10th stamen is free and 9 stamens fuse to form bundle. So, it is called diadelphous. 9 plus 1, diadelphous. Diadelphous condition seen in Tephrosia, Pisum and Dolichos. But in some plants like Arachis and Crotalaria, stamens 10, monadelphous. Generally, stamens dithecous, 2 antherlobes, basifixed and dehiscensus longitudinal. Monocarpellary, single carpel, unilocular, 1 locule and 2 rows of ovules. 2 rows of ovules present on ventral suture. So, rightly called marginal placentation. And ovary is semi-inferior. Ovary, semi-inferior ovary. But in transverse section, it looks like this. Then, style, entomophilous pollination, but a self-pollination or autogamy seen in Pisum and Lathyrus. And piston mechanism promotes cross pollination. Then fruit is legume, but in Arachis, groundnut, fruit is underground, so it is called geocarpic. Seed, non-endospermic. Non-endospermic seed, cotyledons, proteinaceous. Cotyledons proteinaceous. So, rightly called pulses. But in groundnut and soybean, cotyledons are oily. This is a description of Fabaceae. Then floral formula: bracteate, bracteolate, bisexual, zygomorphic, calyx, 5 fused, corolla, papilionaceous corolla, 1 plus 2 plus 2, androecium, diadelphous, 9 plus 1 or monadelphous, gynoecium, semi-inferior ovary.